Today, I'm going to talk about the smallest camera I've ever worked with, the Insta360 Go. 6.42 miles, 7 minutes, 15 seconds per mile today. A fiery sunrise along the lakefront in Chicago, going for a tempo run. Today's workout was 4 by 1 mile repeats at tempo pace. Definitely feeling stronger now that marathon training is in full swing. And today, those tempo miles actually felt doable. And so I was feeling really good, but also really enjoying today taking the Insta360 Go out with me for my run. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome, but this is a running YouTube channel where we talk about all things running and we see a lot of running footage. For a long time, I've been using the Insta360 One X, and so recently when they were planning on releasing the Insta360 Go, they reached out to me to see if I would give it a shot and see how it would do and things that I would normally do with it. And what this tiny little camera can do is it can take photos, it can take videos, it can take time lapses, but it can also shoot in slow motion, which is really important for me and the kinds of things that I want to shoot. I've also used it for the other thing that I do from time to time on this channel, which is just general kind of daily vlogging. My daughter still has another week before summer vacation ends, so she's been coming with me to work, so I've been taking the camera with us there, filming our commutes, and getting just general, getting around the city, getting around town, that kind of footage to give you guys a feel of not necessarily action camera footage, but what does the footage look like if you're going to be using this for day-to-day filming. Now, the other really important aspect about this camera, which sets it apart from the other Insta360 camera that I've run with before, is that this is IPX4 rated, which means it's not completely waterproof. I can't go diving with it just out of the box, but it does have water and splash resistance. It can be submerged for up to 10 seconds. For those of you who have been around here for a while, know that the Insta360 One X, that 360 camera, much bigger, much more robust of a camera, it wasn't waterproof, but I treated it like it was, and eventually that thing ended up dying. No fault to Insta360. This thing, though, should be able to keep up with anything that I throw at it in terms of getting it wet. Now, the way that this thing works is that there are tons of accessories that come with it. It is magnetic on the back, and there's only one button that's on the bottom here, and you've got the screen up front. Other than that, there's a little LCD. There's no screens. There's no other buttons. There's no dials. There's no anything. It's just basically a little pod with a camera in it. And the way that you mount it is through the accessories itself, if you're not going to magnetically attach it to something. Now, that's certainly a way that I've used it as well. In my kitchen, for example, all the cabinets are metal, so I could put that thing pretty much anywhere. A lot of the door frames in this building, over by the elevator, in our hallways, those are all metal as well. We've put it on seats on the bus. So there's lots of places where you use just the magnetic part of it. And because of that, it does remind me a little bit, and because of the size, of the GoPro Session and also the Polaroid Cube. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was an intriguing product that I was always very interested in, but I never ended up picking one of those up because it never had high frame rates. This does shoot at 100 frames per second. Now, when the video shoots, the regular frame rate video is 1080, but the slow motion video is 1600 by 900, which is a little bit less than 1080, and it's at 100 frames per second. What you can slow it down to 25%, which is what I've been using and what you guys have been looking at, and then upscale the image to get to that 1080 frame, which is again what you guys have been seeing. Now the accessories that I've seen which are pretty innovative are basically they have sticky mounts on the back and they're magnetic surfaces. So you can really put this, even if you don't have a magnetic surface, you can put it anywhere in a car, on a dashboard, that kind of thing. The other thing that I like is there's two mounts that I like in particular that I found really useful. One is this mount where when it goes inside, it slides in magnetically, and now this is a 1/4 mount. So I've been using that with my Insta360 selfie stick, which I also use with my GoPro, by the way, because the stick has a good balance of lightness and length, because it does extend. So I'm able to put this on here and rotate it around, and then it also angles. So that's really helpful when I'm trying to get my low angle shots or my side shots where you're looking at my shoes as I'm running. So then I can angle this a certain way as I'm using it. So this has been the most useful mount for me and the one that I use most frequently. That came in the box. All the accessories that I'll talk about today, other than the stick, came in the box. Now the other accessory that I've also found really useful was this. It's basically just a clip, and the camera, the Insta360 Go, fits inside there. And then I've put this on a backpack strap, on a waist strap. You can also put it on a head strap or anything like that. I've thought about putting it on my belt because one of the belts that I have is magnetic and it could stick to it. And also this could probably latch right onto your belt. But I also thought it was kind of weird to have a camera right around waist or groin level. I thought that was a little bit unusual. So I haven't really done too much of that. Backpack strap is one of the areas where I have thought it's pretty useful. But for me, the thing that I like most about it, if I don't have it in the selfie stick mount, is to just handhold it. It's small enough to handhold, and I was worried that the angles would be such that when I did that, my fingers would show up in the frame, and it hasn't shown up, so that's been fortunate. The thing that I don't normally like about mounts, and this isn't just about the Insta360 Go, this is something, a criticism that I have especially of GoPros, is that once you put a camera into a mount, it kind of stays there, and you're only looking at one thing, and it's static. You get one static view. But I always think that the most captivating action camera footage is stuff that's moving around as it's panning, and it gets to see the action with you or you in the action. And so I always like to handhold things or put things on a stick. Hand-holding this is definitely an option, and my fingers haven't gotten in the way as far as any of the footage that I've seen. I even gave it to the baby to handhold for a little while, and she did a pretty good job with it as well. She did drop it. I think when she dropped it, it was in the clip, so I had a little bit of a case on it. But the thing did take a couple of drops in the time that I've had it, and it's still doing just fine. And I think the most innovative mount that they've got for this is this necklace. So what you do with it is you put this necklace on, and the idea is that you put the pendant underneath your shirt, and then you've got a magnetic surface where the camera now sticks and it just can start recording. And the way that you interact with the camera, it's also configurable, which has been useful for me because I'm doing this as I'm running and I don't want to have to deal with menus and turning something on, then selecting a specific shooting mode. I have it set up so that once I press the button once, and even though the button's on the other side, it's angled so that way you can press it from the front and then the button will activate. I have it set up to take a slow motion video. So it's shooting at 1600 by 900 at 100 frames per second. And it'll automatically shoot for either 15 or 30 seconds. I've set it up for 30 seconds of shooting. So that's been useful for me, but you can hold that button down for a long time in order to turn the actual camera on. And then from there, you can select between the photo mode, the video mode, the time-lapse mode, and the slow motion mode if you want to select between any of those things. And all those button presses, it's either single tap, double tap, triple tap, whatever, you can configure those in the app as you're working with the camera. So it can be set up for a way that makes sense to you. So in terms of the workflow though, the one problem that I did tend to find though with this camera, and keep in mind that I do have a pre-production unit and I have pre-release software as well. So I'm trying to look past some of the things that I know that they're working on or things that need to be fixed and ironed out as part of the product launch. But some of the workflow things that I've run into is that a lot of times when I'm running with the camera, sometimes because of the jostling and the way that this button is sensitive, it'll just start recording. So I have a lot of footage of kind of run mode where the camera is pointed like at my shirt, because when I have it in the selfie stick, I don't keep the selfie stick extended the entire time. I'll have it kind of compressed down, and so I'll have it like this and I'm running and I get a lot of accidental footage of my shirt. Not a huge deal. Sometimes though, I've had the opposite problem where the button isn't sensitive enough, where I'm hitting the button and I think it's gonna start recording, but it hasn't, because it hasn't registered the push. And I think that's because of the way that the button is actually on the back of the device and not on the front of the device. So, but you're pushing it from the front and hoping to activate the button on the back. So that's something that I've run into a couple of times. Not a huge deal breaker, but something that I've noticed. And I'm not sure that that's kind of a pre-production thing. I think that's just something with the way that this camera is designed, that's something that's just gonna end up being something you'll have to be aware of. And it's only kind of an issue because of the fact that there's no screen on this. I can't review whether I got a shot or not as I'm looking at it. And even if I ran with my phone, and these days I'm not, because I've been using cellular on my Apple Watch to listen to music and to do all my run tracking. But there's, even if I have this and a phone, that's not enough to be able to review the footage to see whether I got a shot. And so that leads me to kind of like the rest of the workflow is after you've got all the footage, the way that you get that footage onto your phone is that there is a case that this goes into, and there's magnetic attachment points here, and it all kind of clips in together, and then there's a case. And this is the case that you're supposed to use to both charge and to transfer data from the Insta360 camera to your phone. And there's a rubber kind of cover that protects a lightning port that can attach to your phone. So then you put this directly into the phone, and that's how you'll transfer any of the video files from the Insta360 Go to your phone. And so that's the intent of the workflow. There's no SD card. All the memory is internal. And so that probably helps with both the size and also the waterproof rating. But it also means that there's less stuff to buy. You don't have to buy an extra SD card. You don't have to buy an SD card reader. You don't have to worry about losing the card, transferring the data. Everything is self-contained. Then you put it in the case and connect it directly to your iPhone. So ultimately, who is this camera for? Now, I think that the image quality that you're getting from a camera that's this tiny is actually quite impressive. It reminds me a lot of the Insta360 One X in terms of the footage and the level of clarity that I can get with it. I actually think that the image quality on this is a little bit better. I've been putting it in clips of it up on Instagram for my run footage for the past couple of days, and I know that that's not necessarily the most critical place and test to put this kind of footage, but no one was like, hey, this camera looks different than the GoPro that I had been using. You know, what camera is this? No one's been asking any questions like that. I'm sure some of you might have thought something was up, but no one actually was like, whoa, this looks so different that it's extremely noticeable. So the image quality is really good. I still think for the size, it's extremely small, but I don't feel like the GoPro is all that big. So for what I do, I've been doing this for a while. I'm just kind of used to running with something that's at weight. I still think that I prefer the GoPro Hero to run with. And for the kind of workflow that I have, I like having an SD card so that I could just hurry up and bulk move everything from the camera to the laptop. That's just a little bit faster for the way that I'm using it. But I think that this camera isn't necessarily for me. I think this camera is for people, and keeping in mind that the charge case connects directly to your phone is to make it for people that want to have action camera footage go from camera to social media as quickly as possible. The Insta360 app can edit your scenes for you using artificial intelligence to recognize what it's seeing in the footage and then edit it together for you to music if you want it to. So I think that's the ideal person that this is for. I think that the purchase price of this, which I believe is gonna be $200 for the camera and all the accessories, the compactness of it, the ease of use in terms of just being able to put it pretty much anywhere, I think that's really gonna speak to that kind of user. In addition to the kind of beginner action camera user or the intermediate action camera user, I think this will work well for people like me, more advanced action camera users. Not that I'm the most advanced action camera user out there, but people that have been using it for a while in terms of having a second or even a third action camera, something that you can just set up and mount in a further out location or in a place where you might not normally think of having an extra action camera shot or an extra angle to show your footage from. I think that that's where it's going to fit in really well. So those are my thoughts on the Insta360 Go after having lived with it for a couple of days, almost a week now. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'd love to talk to you guys more about it down there. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video, and I will see you tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?